I don't want to spend too long searching. I might be wrong. Okay.
But go ahead and answer this while I look for it.
Let me go back, and I want to talk about the competitor cycle that you were asking me about. You wanted me to share this. And
then you're talking about, I think I know, it wasn't from Cecil. I know exactly what you're talking about. Where is it? Because I think it's probably the next question that's queued up. And that's this. Can we get to Little Chris's question about ego?
From Hector. Okay.
Yeah. That's actually the next question.
Okay. So these tie together. So guys, get ready, take a deep breath. Let's regroup. I've been doing podcasts for 4 years with Nate Mindham on the Cue It Up Network, and I've never gone into this because it's something I do with my mental game coaching. It's hard to encapsulate in this format. So I've practiced this long enough. I believe I can do it. But you're gonna have to meet me halfway. So here it is. I call this the competitor cycle, and this is not my invention. This is simply some things I've been taught from other players, things I've learned from mental game books, and things I've learned from my own personal experience, and a lot of journaling and reflection. But over the years, I've built a model in my head of what's going on. That how it works is, and it involves the cycle from playing good to playing bad to playing good to playing bad. So the beginning of the cycle is something I call the beginner's mind. We've heard of the beginner's mind. What are the attitudes we should have when we're trying to learn and develop ourselves? And one big key is humility. We are humble. When we're a beginner, we have humility. We know, I'm just learning. Ha ha ha. Look at me. I'm trying to play pool. And there's three things about that. That I think constitute the beginner's mind. Well, I suppose humility, I already said, but no expectations. We have no expectations. If you played a game you've never played before, like if you've never played snooker on a 6x12 or 3-cushion billiards or something, you'd be like, oh man, I never played this before. I don't really expect much. Secondly, we're very process focused. We're not like, oh, I know what I'm going to get. I know I'm going to try to get a 10. It's like, well, I just want to figure out what do I need to do to try to even give myself a chance to play this game. And let's just focus on trying to do that and see what happens. No expectations and a process focus. And the third thing is we enjoy adversity. We enjoy the adversity. Like the whole point we're playing is because this game is tough and we want to challenge ourselves. So, this 3-cushion, I've never played it before. This is a fun. I'm going to try to go 5 rails. I don't know if I can do it. Not only don't I know if I can do it, but it's going to be fun to try. And it's hard, but it's exciting hard. It's fun hard. So humility, process focused, no expectations, enjoying adversity. That's a good state of mind. And when you have that good state of mind, good things happen. So then the good things start happening. And then little by little, as those good things happen, the ego starts paying attention to those good things and says, look at this. I'm a good player. Because there's two ways you can enjoy pool, everybody. You can enjoy testing yourself against the adversity in the moment and kind of like allowing that adversity to bring you into the here and now and enjoy that kind of meditative Zen experience. That's one way to enjoy the game. The other way to enjoy the game is to indulge in ego fantasy and start telling yourself stories about how significant and important and special you are and how awesome you are, and listen and replaying compliments that you got or how that person must have thought of you when you made that shot. And that's all like ego is just building up this fictional image of yourself and then basking in your reflection of you create this fictional picture of yourself that you like to think, and then you sit there and gaze at it adoringly and pat yourself on the back. That's what that is. So in the beginning, you don't have any ego because you're like, I haven't done anything. Why would I have an ego? But then as you start getting good results and people start giving you compliments and all these nice things, all of a sudden you're like, well, look at that. Look at that. That's pretty good. And then the problem is that now you want to enjoy that. But now when you go to the pool table the next day, and there's two other comments that talked about this. One person mentioned a comment, this is the one I was looking for, about missing shots they feel they should make, missing shots they know they should make, missing shots they know they should make, or not playing at the level they know they should play at. I think it was Cecil's comment. And then there was another comment about I lost it. But anyway, the problem is now when we go to the pool table, we're no longer in the beginner's mind, looking to enjoy our challenge. Now we are looking to prove that this fictional character, the superhero we built ourselves up to be in our mind, we're looking to demonstrate our skills and our prowess at pool so that we continue to receive compliments and replay good shots. And we're looking to recreate and worship at our own altar a little bit. And the problem is that now that leads to image management. Now we're looking for image preservation. We're looking to preserve our own self-image. And that all of a sudden we become very result-oriented because we need to win to preserve that. And we have very high expectations. And we become resentful of adversity. And so I'm going to zoom in on this, exactly how this plays out. So we go from beginner's mind, no expectations, humility, process-oriented, and enjoying adversity. We start getting great results. And then we want to continue to get those results and pat ourselves on the back about how awesome we are. And so that ties into this whole thing about when somebody says, I'm not playing at the level, I'm not playing the way I'm supposed to, or I'm not playing the way I know I play. It's like, to me, it's like, yes, you do. Yes, you are. If that's how you're playing, that's actually how you play. The issue is not how you play. The issue is it doesn't match up to this fantasy you built. Your ego is bigger than your britches. You're getting a little big for your britches. And I tell somebody, I remember telling somebody, they were playing and they posted on AZ Billiards. I post there a lot. And they were talking about how frustrated they were. This one person mentioned they wanted to sell their cues because they were in a slump or something. And they had posted about how they were in this league match and they kept missing the 8-ball. They ran out 2 racks. They missed 2 8-balls. They couldn't believe it. And finally on the hill, even as bad as they played, they came down to 1 ball and they did their process and the good stroke and whatever. And it didn't go. And they were like ready to sell their cues. And I told them, I said, the problem is, sorry, it says a little tough. He's just trolling. Okay. You're typing a comment. No problem. Yeah. So here's what I told him, Chris. I said to him, when was the day that you graduated yourself to being a good player with a capital G? So I say there's good players. Like I'm a good player with a lowercase G. Like I can play the game. I'm not pretending I don't know how to play the game at all. But there's something that people do where they think they become a good player. Maybe it's that first day they ran 50 balls at straight pool or 3 racks at 8-ball. Maybe it's that first day they won that weekly tournament and beat that guy in the finals that had always beat him before. But they did something, and sometime in their mind, they're like, you know what? I'm no longer a beginner. I'm a good player. I'm a good player now. So they've decided I'm a good player. And as making that decision, there's a certain set of entitlements that come from being a good player. As a good player, I have decided in my mind that good players don't miss the 8-ball, and that good players don't choke, and that good players can beat lower-rated players whenever they want. And I am one of them. So they have this whole package of expectations that comes along with good player status, and they've decided that they are a good player. So they've built this image of who they think they are as a good player and a set of expectations that they are allowed. Now, as a good player, I no longer have to be the guy that shows up and tries to play and deal with adversity and loses and suffers. Now I can be the guy that shows up and shows everybody how great pool is. It collects my wins. It collects my adoration. Well, that doesn't work. So that leads to, like I said, expectations, result-oriented, resenting adversity. Because all of a sudden, guys, you're in that state of mind and you get a tough shot and you're no longer thinking, oh boy, this is going to be fun to take on. You're like, I just want my win so I can be awesome and enjoy being awesome. And this shot is in between me and that win that I need to continue to pat myself on the back. And when your opponent misses and hooks you, instead of thinking, oh, okay, this is a good time to try that new kick system. This is going to be fun to see if I can get this hit. You're like, oh, of course the guy would hook me. He should have left me a shot so I could collect my win and be awesome. And so that state of mind leads to 3 things: fear, self-loathing, and anger. And so it comes from fear, a fear of exposure. You've got this fictional image of yourself and you don't want it to be exposed as false. You're really attached to that. So you're afraid that it's going to crumble because you know it isn't true. You know it isn't true, or you wouldn't be afraid. Hint, if you're afraid, whatever you're afraid of losing, it's not true. Otherwise you wouldn't be afraid. So like if you go to alcohol, if you buy alcohol, if you're over 21 and they're going to ask for an ID, do you get afraid? No, because you know you're 21. But if you're 19 with a fake ID, you might be nervous because you know, oh. So it's like, If you're scared, then it ain't true. The second part is self-loathing. Your ego, you demand more from yourself. You expect more from yourself. And so you start really hating on yourself for not being the player you think you ought to be. And then the third part about anger. So anger and self-loathing are close. It's anger at yourself or just anger at the world. And how come he missed and left me this? And this is ridiculous. And by the word should. I should have made that. I shouldn't have missed that. I should be up 4-1 right now. He shouldn't have won that set. I should do this. And I should be able to pull myself out of a slump. And I should. It's like, cool story, bro. Big ego you got there. You really think you got this solved. So what happens is people get into that mindset, and that leads to fear, frustration, and self-loathing, which leads to totally bad performances. And it's painful as all hell. And you continue to go through it. And the pain that you go through, when we build up that false image, whatever ego we build up on that one side, reality burns it to the ground. Reality will expose it and burn it to the ground. And the pain we feel is that ego burning to the ground and coming back to earth. And that may sound tough. It's humiliating. Humiliation. It's humiliating. I can't believe that a player like me would play this bad. Like me and my expectations. But after it's all burned to the ground and there's nothing left, and you surrender. So humiliation sounds like a bad thing. I'm being humiliated. But that leads back to humility, which is where we ought to be. So humility, process-oriented, no expectations, enjoying adversity leads to great results. And then the ego creeps in, starts basking in its own glory and creating all these stories about what we could do as a great player. And then that leads to fear of exposure, and it leads to high expectations, result-oriented thinking, and lots of resenting adversity and being miserable about how tough the game is. Because now it's no longer, before it was, I'm creating the finish line. I'm playing a race to 9. I don't really care about 9. I just care about creating a course where I can enjoy testing myself. Now it's, the course is in between me and that 9 that I need to get to basket my win. So, and then that leads to fear, frustration, self-loathing, ultimately terrible performances and humiliation and frustration and pain, which leads back to humility, which is generally when we can start playing. Because as the ego gets involved in pool and tries to get what it wants, it just doesn't work well. So at a high level, that is the competitor cycle. Now, to take that to this question about starting the match strong and then falling apart. And it can work both ways. So if somebody's starting the match strong, they might be in a good state of mind when they start. Because in the beginning of the match, they're like, I don't know if I can win or not. No expectations. I don't know if I have what it takes to win this match. I don't know if I can win. I'm nervous. I don't know if I can even play good right now because I'm nervous and I'm up against a good player and I don't know. So let's just try my hardest and see what happens. Hey, pretty good state of mind. So all of a sudden they start playing well. And then all of a sudden they're up like 4-0, 5-0. And then the ego creeps in and says, see how good you're playing? You're playing awesome. I guess you can handle the pressure. I guess you do have what it takes to win the set. And now you're up 4-0 and 5-0. You've proven that you're playing good. You've proven that you're going to win the set. You've proven you're the better player. So now just keep doing that. And then we should just beat this guy 9-0. And from here on out, we've shown that we can handle this. And so now just keep doing this. And this is awesome. Now I've shifted to where now I'm just going to sit back and enjoy how awesome I am as I cruise over this guy. And all of a sudden, the expectations creep in, which is it should keep going this way. And I've already won this set. And now for the rest of the set, I'm just going to kind of enjoy everybody applauding my runouts and how amazing I'm playing. And all of a sudden, if that mindset can shift in the middle of the match because we start getting attached to the way things are going in the first half of the match. And so to me, that's a sign that we are getting pulled. So one way that I would recognize that is when I start thinking that is I would be like, okay, I'm up 4-0, 5-0, and I find myself but I know that when you're up 5-0 to race to 9, it's not just technically, oh, he can come back and it's not over till it's over. No, that's not what the issue is. The issue is the challenge when you're up 5-0 is not just winning the match. The challenge is not getting sucked into your ego. So I might, if I started thinking things like that, I might think to myself, hey, I realize that the match is going well and it's likely I'll win it. But now the challenge at the beginning was playing my game and handling the pressure and trying to compete with this guy. But now I'm dealing with the challenge of not getting sucked into my ego. So that's really the battle that's going on right now. So, and that's a tough one. And I don't know if I can win it or not. So let's try and realize that even if you're up 8-0 where you feel like even if you play bad, I mean, it's probably going to get the set. But it's like, that's not the challenge anymore. Now the challenge is not getting sucked down this other rabbit hole of your mindset and try to continue to do what got you there. And so if you're aware of that pitfall, the same thing can happen in reverse, where you can start the match really weak and then catch a gear. And this is actually when we were talking about playing out of slumps. A lot of times the ego is the very controlling part. The ego wants to control. And so in the beginning of a set, the ego is like, make sure you do what you did in practice, and make sure you do your routine, and make sure you aim that ball right, and make sure you win this rack, and make sure you make this ball. And the ego is like, it's like the dad at Little Leagues that's shouting at the kid at plate, like, no, pull your bat back and make sure you swing higher. Don't do that and don't do this. And so as long as that ego is involved, your performance is poor. And then at some point you get down 3-0, 4-0, 5-0, and nothing works, and you're being humiliated. You're going through all that. And at some point you kind of surrender and you stop caring. And they call it give up stroke, where you're just like, well, it looks like I'm going to lose, and I guess I don't know how to play after all. And if I ever thought I knew how to play this game, I guess I'm wrong. So I'll just, whatever, I don't care, but I'll just keep hitting balls. And now, because you're back in that beginner's mindset, a lot of times you end up playing good the second half and making big comebacks and playing really well. And the irony is then at that point, then the ego creeps back in and says, see what I did for you? So I love this competitor mindset that I just walked through. People can go through that cycle in a single rack. It can change in a shot, or it can play out over months. And as a competitor, we go through the cycle again and again and again. And so when this happens, what it's about is, one, little by little, you learn how to get back to the beginner's mind a little bit more quickly. You don't stop going through the cycle, but number one, maybe you can get back to the beginner's mindset more quickly. And number two, even when you can't, and even when you're slumping, it's not the end of the world, because this is the journey of a competitor. And if you want to be a competitor, you are going to go through this. And so if you have this story about how I shouldn't go through this, and the ego, by the way, is telling the story, I should be good enough to not have to go through this cycle. And the ego might even be saying, okay, great, now I know about this competitor cycle. Now how can I use that knowledge to transcend it and not go through that anymore? It's like, no. You're going to go through this. But now when you go through this, and you go through that humiliation and that pain and that suffering, I said this in my mental game coaching, is something I really love. On a pain scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being like a slap on the wrist and a 10 being hell, going through the downside of that spiral where everything's bad on a pool table is only a 2. It's the stories that we tell ourselves about it and believing those stories that becomes a 9. So I played a rough set last night, Chris. Totally didn't bother me. I was just happy to be here hitting balls with you. And yeah, it's not what I wanted. And I wasn't thrilled with the way I was performing. And I was, trying to get back on track. But it didn't bother me, because I go through that every Tuesday. It's just cool. But it's when we start saying it should be some other way and I should be in control, it's the ego whining that makes it a 9. The actual experience isn't that bad. So at a high level, that's the competitor cycle. That's how I feel about trying to control things. And I would recommend people to go back and listen to that clip again, because this is an abbreviated version for but I think it's useful to understand